Type function. Python have a built-in method called as type, which generally come in handy while figuring out the type of variable used in the program in the runtime. If a single argument object is passed to type, built-in, it returns type of the given object. For example, #Python code type with a single object parameter. X is equal to 5, S is equal to hello, Y is equal to 1, 2, 3. Print type X, print type S, print type Y. Input function. Developers often have a need to interact with users, either to get data or to provide some sort of result. Most programs today use a dialog box as a way of asking the user to provide some type of input, while Python provides us with two inbuilt functions to read the input from the keyboard. raw_input prompt. Raw_input. This function takes exactly what is typed from the keyboard, convert it to string and then return it to the variable in which we want to store. For example, #Python program showing. #a use of raw_input. G is equal to raw_input, enter your name. Print G. Output. Input prompt. Input. This function first takes the input from the user and then evaluates the expression, which means Python automatically identifies whether user entered a string or a number or list. If the input provided is not correct, then either syntax error or exception is raised by Python. For example, #Python program, #a use of input. Val is equal to input, enter your value. Print val. Output. Python operators. You can do multiplication, addition, subtraction, and division in the Python shell, among other mathematical operations that we won't go into right now. The basic symbols used by Python to perform mathematical operations are called operators, as listed in the table below. Symbol, operation, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. The / is used for division because it's similar to the division line that you would use when writing a fraction. For example, if you had 100 mangoes and 20 large barrels and you wanted to calculate how many mangoes you could hide in each barrel, you could divide 100 mangoes by 20 barrels. 100 divide by 20 by entering 100/20 in the Python shell. Just remember that the / is the one whose top falls to the right. Baud mass, brackets of divide, multiply, addition, subtraction. Note. Notice that when entering a multiplication calculation in Python, you use the asterisk symbol instead of a multiplication sign. Comments in Python. Comments are the statements that are added to a program with the purpose of making the code easier to understand. Compilers and interpreters generally ignore comments during the execution of the program. If you add comments to your Python program, Python will not show the text written in the comments in the output. Although comments are optional, they are needed from the user's perspective. In Python, there are two types of comments. Single-line comments. Single-line comments are created by beginning a line with the hash character and are automatically terminated at the end of the line. For example, 5 multiply 2, #5 squared, 25. 2 multiply 7, #2 to the power of 7, 128. Multiple line comments. Sometimes your program may need to explain things. Comments. We can provide multi-line comments in a program by adding delimiter at the beginning and the end of the comments. For example, in programming terms, we usually call text a string. When you think of a string as a collection of letters, the term makes sense. Conditional statements. Conditional statement in Python perform different computations or actions depending on whether a specific Boolean constraint evaluates to true or false. Conditional statements are handled by if statements in Python. If statement. We'll start by looking at the most basic type of if statement. In its simplest form, it looks like this. If EXPR statement. In the form shown above, EXPR is an expression evaluated in Boolean context. Statement is a valid Python statement which must be indented. If EXPR is true, evaluates to the value that is truly, then statement is executed. If EXPR is false, then statement is skipped over and not executed. Note that the colon following EXPR is required. Some programming languages require EXPR to be enclosed in parentheses, but Python does not. Program. Num is equal to 3. If num is less than 0, print num is a positive number. Output 3 is a positive number. If-else statement. The if-else statement evaluates test expression and will execute body of if only when test condition is true. If the condition is false, body of else is executed. Indentation is used to separate the blocks. Syntax. If test expression. Body of if, else, body of else. Program. Num is equal to 3. If num is smaller than is equal to 0, print positive or 0, else print negative number. Output positive or 0. If elif else statement. The elif is short for else if. It allows us to check for multiple expressions. If the condition for if is false, it checks the condition for the next elif block and so on. If all the conditions are false, body of else is executed. Only one block among the several if elif else blocks is executed according to the condition. The if block can have only one else block, but it can have multiple elif blocks. Syntax of if, elif, else. If test expression. Body of if. Elif test expression. Body of elif. Else. Body of else. Program. Num is equal to 3.4. If num is smaller than 0, print positive number. Elif num is equal to 0, print 0, else print negative number. Jargons. Output positive number. Loop commands. Loop commands. Python has two primitive loop commands. While loops, for loops, discussed in detail in next chapter. Python while loops. With the while loop, we can execute a set of statements as long as a condition is true. Example, print I as long as I is less than 6. Code, I is equal to 1. While I is less than 6, print I plus is equal to 1. Output. The while loop requires relevant variables to be ready. In this example, we need to define an indexing variable I, which we set to 1. The break statement. With the break statement, we can stop the loop even if the while condition is true. Example, exit the loop when I is 3. Code, I is equal to 1. While I is less than 6, print I. If I is equal to 3, break I plus is equal to 1. Output. The else statement. With the else statement, we can run a block of code once when the condition no longer is true. Example, print a message once the condition is false. Code, I is equal to 1. While I is less than 6, print I plus is equal to 1. Else, print I is no longer less than 6. Output. Quick recap. Python is a simple, easy-to-learn, platform-oriented and portable language. We cannot use keywords as variables in Python. Python is an interpreter, high-level, general-purpose programming language created by Guido van Rossum and first released in 1991. Python's design philosophy emphasizes code readability with its notable use of significant white space. Python files have extension .py. A Python identifier starts with a letter A to Z or A to Z or an underscore followed by 0 or more letters, underscores and digits 0 to 9. Python is a case-sensitive programming language. Thus, manpower and manpower are two different identifiers in Python. Python does not allow punctuation characters such as @ $, and percentage within identifiers. Python provides no braces to indicate blocks of code for class and function definitions or flow control. Blocks of code are denoted by line indentation, which is rigidly enforced. Python accepts single, double, and triple quotes to denote string literals, as long as the same type of quote starts and ends the string. A hash sign that is not inside a string literal begins a comment. True, false, and none are capitalized, while the other keywords are in lowercase in Python. Indentation is necessary for Python. It specifies a block of code. All code within loops, classes, functions, etc. is specified within an indented block. Python has 5 main built-in data types: numeric, string, list, tuple, and dictionary.